DDP Snake Pit fans, what is going on? It's time for another edition of the Snake Pit. I, of course, am John Alba, and this week we're flying solo again. Jake the Snake Roberts, the Hall of Famer himself. It's you and I, mano a mano. I know you are thrilled. How are you, my friend?
I have to do this? Really? I'm great. Oh, hi. No, I'm fine, man. Feeling good. Found out the docs. I don't have what I thought I had, so that's good. And these doctors are so smart. You know, she goes, "Your throat looks very raw." I said, "It is very raw." She goes, "See, I told you." Gee, I didn't know that. Is that why it hurts? Oh, okay. Have you ever had this before? Yes, I have. Well, you've got it again. Okay. Pat me on my back and send me out.
Did they give you anything? You doing okay? What's the
yeah,
deal?
they'll give me some meds. No, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
It's just, I've got a little bug or something, and I've had it for about 3 weeks now. You know, it's messing me up on my talking. Hopefully I'll make it through this podcast without breaking down. But we'll go as long as we can, man. Because I'm really excited, man, to talk about Rick Rude.
Yes, Rick Rude is going to be he's going to be our topic this week. We're going to get into a conversation about that. I just want to say this real quick, Jake. It's funny. Whenever I host this show, I always get messages. I get DMs, and they're always like, "How's Jake doing?" You know, you have so many people who are concerned about you. They care about you.
Well,
That's got to feel good.
Thing, you know, it does feel good, but it gets frustrating, and not because I'm angry because they care. It's that I get upset knowing that they're upset, worried about me. Folks, I'm great. I'm better than I've been before. I'm very, very happy. My life, my love life, Cheryl and I are back, you know, doing our thing, and my health is as good as it's going to get. You know, I'm saddled with the oxygen thing, but I am working on something that may release me from this. It's a new process we're doing, and really excited. Been doing it for a couple of weeks now, and I've noticed some changes. And but you know, even if I've got to wear this, that's fine, because I damn sure wouldn't want to try life without it. But I don't have to wear it all the time. But when I talk, it takes a lot of energy and oxygen to talk, so I have to wear it. If I wasn't doing this right now, I wouldn't be wearing it. But I feel great, so stop the worrying. Well, don't quit worrying. Just quit worrying about me.
Well, I appreciate the update. I'm sure all your fans do as
no
well.
problem, guys. I love you guys, man. I love you because you care and because you think about things. And it's just an incredible feeling I get when I realize just how many people care.
Yeah.
And wow. Anyway, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's talk about Rick Rude. Rick Rude, one of my favorite heels of his era, and in my opinion, one of the most underrated pro wrestlers ever, quite frankly. When I say Rick Rude, Jake the Snake Roberts, what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Ravishing.
Quite the moniker that he had going for him there. But any particular memories that jump right to the forefront?
Oh, my God. There are so many. Not many people know this, but when Rick Rude was first breaking in, you know, he's from that group of guys that came down from Minnesota, you know, Road Warriors, Kurt, Demolition, you know, a bunch of those guys, Kevin Kelly, you know, the Convict. I love that guy. McMahon out. All right. Anyway, Rick had came down to Atlanta to visit Animal. Animal and I had an apartment together in Atlanta. And so he stayed with us for about 2 weeks, and it was an experience. Evidently, he's got a problem with smoking. Hates it. I'm a smoker. It's my apartment, but I'd wake up and he's thrown every friggin' ashtray I have away. Just opened the door and chunked them out in the parking lot. You know. That's not cool. I would have said something to him, but he was constantly having roid rages. That guy would go off on anything. I mean, anything. Good morning, Rick. What the fuck you mean, good morning? What are you pulling on me? Huh? You pulling a game on me? You want to fuck with me? Come here, I'll show you. I'm like, wait the fuck, I said good morning, you know? And he was like that. Of course, so were Animal and Hawk. But I'd lived through them, so I tried it with Rick. And while Rick was there, we had a nightclub that we went to called Shenanigans. It's where I met Cheryl. In fact, her father owned that nightclub. And it wasn't a strip joint. How about that? That's for me.
Nice change of pace.
Yeah, it was. But evidently he went down there and he used to wear this big gold chain with an anchor on it. You know, U.S. Navy. I guess his dad was in the Navy or something. He's very proud. But it was big, heavy gold. And that shit was real, man. That was expensive. And evidently he got a little bit too drunk, or they dropped a couple of pills on him. And he was pretty messed up. And he went out in the parking lot walking the girl to her car. And these two guys were in a fight right by her car. And he's like, hey, come on, guys, stop. Stop fighting. Somebody's going to get hurt. All of a sudden, they turned and they jumped on him. They jumped on him, got the gold, jerked it off, hopped in the car, and took off with her. It was a setup. You know, there's probably, $6,000-7,000 around his neck,
Wow.
But they cut him up pretty bad. He had a big cut over his eye. But he got back to our place, which is like only 2 miles away. The reason I say they must have drugged him was because when he got back to the house, nobody was there. We were out wrestling somewhere. And he passed out on our couch, which was where he was sleeping anyway. But he passed out. We came in hours later and didn't even notice the condition he was in. He was covered up. And the next morning I got up and there is blood all over our white couch.
Wow.
I mean, big hunks of blood. The clotting had happened and everything. And we got him awake. We thought maybe he was dead. Got him awake and he had this big gash. And he couldn't remember anything.
Wow.
And he drove home like that,
That's insane.
So we got him to the hospital and they sewed him up and he was okay. But they definitely drugged him because he was out of it. And, I'll be quite honest with you. I would not jump Rick Rude with anybody else unless it was Tonga, the Samoan. I'd jump in with him on my side, but I wouldn't jump Rick Rude even if he had been drugged.
Legit tough guy?
Oh, he's an animal. Oh, Christ, he's an animal. He Minnesota state champion in arm wrestling. Story goes, and I seen the tape where he's arm wrestling the guy, and he just goes boom, and he broke the guy's arm, just shattered it. Just shattered it, man. But he was an animal.
Well, Rick is somebody that came up through the territories to start Mid-Atlantic, Florida, world class. He's actually with Jim Crockett in '87. He's one half of the NWA World Tag Champs. And then he jumps to New York. He jumps to Vince McMahon's WWF, and he doesn't drop the title in the process. And that was a bit of a controversial occurrence there. Or what do you think of that when someone doesn't drop a title? And it's not like this is the first time this has happened. This has happened a million times across wrestling.
I don't agree with that at all. I don't, there's been so many guys get away with it too, holding up promoters because they don't want to lose the title in this certain area, maybe Canada. Does that ever happen? Oh, wait, it did. Sean and Brett. Brett, he didn't want to drop it in Canada, so they screwed him. You didn't get screwed, asshole. You got what you deserved. How do you have the right not to drop that title that was given to you? You did not beat up anybody to get that. The reason you have that title is because some other schmuck was a good enough guy to lose to you. So you not dropping that title tells me you don't give a flying fuck about anybody else but yourself. And that's very selfish. It's wrong. And if you're contemplating doing it, that's for you.
Well, Rick does make the jump. He does make the jump regardless. And he comes in around June 1987. And your first match that you have with him is in November. And he defeats you via countout in a dark match in Omaha. You'd have a few more matches in 1988. What were your first impressions of wrestling him and the reactions he was getting from the crowds at that point?
Yeah, it was very easy for me. I always play up to whatever they have. And Rick had a lot. So I could play with a lot of things with him, man. And I was very comfortable with him. I was very fortunate that he listened to me and he let me call the match. And I wasn't stupid enough to do stuff that might humiliate him in any way, because I knew that if he ever ticked off, I was dead. That's just straight up. I believe there's been other people find out that Rick Rude was not somebody to mess with. I know of an incident where he knocked a fella out a couple of times in the same match. They had a problem at the time, and I'm pretty sure they got over it. But I just didn't go there, a lot of guys would have went the cheap route, but I never did go the cheap route in a match. I worked to his strength. I put him over with his strength. I put him over with the way he looked. It's easy, very easy. And he worked the crowd tremendously, maybe a little bit too much, because he would get personal with people that were sitting at ringside. And guys, before you do that, remember this. That fan that you're calling a fat schmuck or a jobless piece of shit or you big cow, it may be true. 9 times out of 10, it is true. But she also bought the ticket.
Right.
You need to put her over. Can you imagine you go into a hockey game and a hockey player come over to you and tell your son or your daughter that their dad's a piece of shit because he's not a professional athlete? Look at him. He's a nobody. He has nothing going from him. I'm sorry, kids. Your dad's a loser. My God, how would you feel? And here, Rick would get pretty personal with him. And what can you say? The guy's got the perfect body.
Would you say that's cheap heat?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I never have agreed with cheap heat. There's no reason for it. There's no reason at all for it. All that tells me is that you're getting impatient with how the match is going. So if he started it with me, I would go right after him and lock up with him. If I'm locked up with him, he's not going to be talking to them. Especially because I'll immediately start selling for him. Then I'll reverse it and come out on top, and then I'll drag him over there where those people are at so they can yell at him. Give them a little back if I can. But no, we worked. They were getting us ready, letting us taste each other out. There's nothing harder than being put in the ring with somebody you've never been in a ring with at a crucial time, such as, let me think, a WrestleMania.
Yeah. What do you think of him as a worker in between the ropes? What do you think of him?
Very solid.
Yeah.
Very solid. Rick could do anything he wanted to, but you had to tell him and you had to help him with his timing.
Okay.
Sometimes he would rush it. I used to just tell him, go dance a while. He'd come over and hit me a couple. We can get rid of this. He would come over and hit me or something, and I'd go down selling, and he's trying to pick me up, and I'd just stiffen up so he couldn't pick me up. And he's going, what are you doing? Go dance a while, Rick. So he'd go to the other side of the ring and start his shit. Folks, that's when you get over.
Yeah.
That's when you get your character over. You know, because that's what was needed at the time.
And what Rick did differently, think about it. There are so many body guys in that era, right? Bunch of just big jack dudes. But he was one of the first guys on that stage to lean into the sexuality, to lean into the sex appeal. That wasn't something that was really happening in wrestling until Rick Rude did that.
That's because he had everything taken care of. You know, there were great guys that were huge. The Road Warriors were huge, but they weren't body beautifuls. I mean, you look at Rick Rude, you know, if I was a chick, I would have done Rick Rude.
We're going to put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, I'll do Rick Rude. Send me one first. That'll sell.
Oh, I know it will sell. But you were right, though, where this is kind of leading you guys up to a match at WrestleMania. And it's you and Rick Rude. And it's a 15-minute draw in the WWF Championship tournament.
Oh, my God.
At WrestleMania 4 in Atlantic City. It's a pretty casual wrestling crowd here at Trump Plaza. And if you watch it back, there's not a whole lot of engagement from them. Damien gets a little close to Ivana Trump in the front row. What do you remember from that night?
I remember Ivana sitting at ringside, not even looking at the ring. She had her little champagne glass with the bottle, you know, the big bottle in the cooler, and she turned her chair sideways, and Donald's going crazy for the match, and she's just sipping. She won't even look. So that's the reason that happened at the end, whenever I came out on her side, and I grabbed the snake and I swung it at her, and she pushed her chair too far back, and she fell backwards. And now her legs are in the air doing this. I found out at WrestleMania 7 that she actually tried to hire two of her guards to come to my hotel room and beat the fucking shit out of me.
Wow.
Yeah. And Donald affirmed it. Donald loves me. I don't know if it's just because of that, but he loves me. You know, and I'm so glad.
Well,
but 15 minutes in the ring with Rick Rude.
It was tough.
I don't know how I made it.
Really?
I mean, there were a couple of times I would have been happy to give up, because you got to think about where he was at. You know, this guy's got the best friggin' body in the business, yet he's not getting the monster push. That makes him a little angry. That makes him want to go out and show everybody who he is. So come WrestleMania, everybody, not just Rick Rude, but everybody, including myself, you always give a little bit more than you normally give in Mania. In Mania, you try to show them everything that you got, because that's the biggest stage you're going to have. And Rick Rude was trying to do that. And he was in such phenomenal shape, I could not keep up with him. He is ragging me out.
Was his cardio as good as his body was?
Yes. Yes. He blew me up so bad, I thought I was going to puke. You know, I think I would have puked if I had time to do it. But he just didn't give me the time. So that was our first match, real match. And, of course, a lot of things are going to happen after that. But if I was a betting man, I'd have put all my money on Rick Rude.
Let's get back to business here, Jake. So before WrestleMania, the WWF actually did a taping in Missouri for shows that would air after WrestleMania.
Yeah, Cape Girardeau.
Yep, Cape Girardeau. And Rick had started offering ladies to come from the audience to get the Rude Awakening kiss after he would defeat opponents on TV. But on this occasion, it's a great idea. But on this occasion, the lady he picks out, unbeknownst to him, is your wife, Cheryl. She refuses his offer, announces she's married to you. Rick laughs
Yeah.
about it. He insults you,
Yeah.
and she slaps him. And then he grabs her by the wrist until you run out to make the save, and there's a big brawl.
Brother, I was in the shower, soaped up, playing with my snake, the long one. Anyway,
which one's that?
The scaly one. The scaly one. That doesn't.
Which one's that?
The one without warts. Anyway,
I love this.
And I had to run, man, because they told me my wife's in trouble. I hear that shit, man. I was lucky to put my pants on because she never liked to sit out in the audience. Cheryl's a very shy person, very guarded person, and she didn't know what the hell he was doing. And he took it and ran with it. He saw a crack in the window, and he went for it, which later on, they wound up turning it into some pretty good money.
So let me get this straight. So this was not planned?
No. Yes. Yeah, it was planned.
I was gonna say, hold on a minute here. Like, I mean, if you were to luck, because look, shit's happened before in wrestling. Like, people luck into shit like that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I'm just making sure. I was like, this is way too plotted out here. But
the bad thing about it was a couple of people, Pat Patterson and Vince too, thought it would be a good idea to tell Cheryl exactly what's going to happen, walk her through it, and all that. She didn't want to know.
Oh.
She just wanted it to be natural reaction. Because she told me, she goes, honey, I'm not an actress. Don't give me a bunch of points and stuff that I've got to hit.
Yeah.
Just keep it short, sweet, and what would I do? So they asked her, what would you do? She goes, I'd slap the piss out of him. Go ahead. And you know what Rick Rude told me? He said, your wife hits harder than you do. Evidently, she got his ear.
She rocked him.
Yeah. And that kind of brought him back to reality.
So whose idea was it to get her involved?
Vince's. They were trying to.
How hesitant are you on that?
Very, very. And I'll tell you why in a minute, but we had a daughter, and that means she's got to be on the road too. And be quite honest with you, there's no other human beings on this planet that could do the schedule we were doing, unless you were doing it yourself. Many times during the next few months, she was going with me, and she'd be at the hotel so sick she couldn't get out of bed. And I'd look at her and say, are you kidding me? I'm the one that's getting in the ring, getting the crap beat out of me. I'm the one being tossed around. I'm the one driving the rental car, and you can't get out of bed and put makeup on? And she'd get up and knuckle it under and do her job. But it wasn't pleasant. Now, I'll tell you the reason it wasn't pleasant. So many guys were misbehaving. Their wives were at home. They were misbehaving. My wife's seeing all of this shit.
Yeah.
So what's she saying to me?
Are you doing that?
Is that what you do? Is that what you do when I'm at home? Friends of ours. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want to hear his preaching. Oh, I'll let it slip. Anyway, seen him with another woman, and she got upset about it, but she really got upset when after day 4, he had 3 different women. And he walked her right in beside us. He don't give a fuck. Well, and he comes to me, he goes, hey, tell your wife to keep her mouth shut. Really? You're going to put that shit on me? Huh. Dude, that's on you. So we had a few words. But it was
That's
tremendous
tough.
in the fact that my wife finally got just how incredibly hard we were being pushed. And then she started to also see, when you're on the road for, say, a month, you come home, what's the first thing you want to do? Go out and eat? I don't think so. No, man. You want a bologna sandwich sitting on the couch with your feet up, or some beans and rice or something. So now, for the first time in my life, my wife understands why whenever I came home, I would get upset if she wanted to go out and eat. Because before that, what I would hear is, oh, you're ashamed of me? You don't want to take me out to eat? What, because I'm pregnant? I'm unattractive now? Oh, you kidding me? You can't win, bro. But now she understood just how hard it was.
Yeah.
That was a good thing. But her seeing with countless guys with other women was a very, very bad thing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, she'd be on the road a while, Jake, because for the next 7 months, from May to November, it's you and Rude practically every night on the road. It is a long feud. Do you guys get tired of working one another after that many months together? No. You had good chemistry, you feel like?
Oh yeah, we got it to where we were having fun. We never showed the people how much fun we were having, but we worked hard, we worked real, and we worked very solid. Very solid. I guarantee you there were shots that I took that in a regular situation I would have given up if it was on the street. I give up, man. Take my wallet, take my car, take my wife, take all this shit. I can't go anymore, because Rick would rock you every now and then. He didn't mean to, but he's so jacked. I mean, grabbing his forearm wasn't like grabbing somebody's arm. It was as hard as steel. Grabbing his shoulder, grabbing his abs, man. What are you going to do with that? Now that you've got a hold of him, what are you going to do with that? I got to tell you about this one night, man. This is a little on the dark side, so I'll prepare you for that.
Okay.
I'm laying in bed. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. Cheryl wasn't there for some reason. I think we'd already finished our run. But anyway, at 4 o'clock in the morning, I get a call from Rick Root. That never happens. We respect each other not to call each other unless it's a very serious situation. And he's on the phone. He goes, brother, you got any condoms? What? Do you have any condoms? Are you fucking kidding me, Rick? Don't you ever call me again and wake me up looking for condoms. Jesus fucking Christ. Because it's hard to fall back to sleep.
Of course.
For 2 reasons. One, he woke you up and now you're thinking about him getting laid and you're not doing shit. So that's not good. You wishing the wife was there, but the next morning.
I was going to say, I was hoping that was the darkest part of the story. But
no. The next morning, I go downstairs with my snake and everything. And I just finished a big joint in my room. And I get on the elevator, and it stops the next floor. I'm just letting out the smoke. And on steps 3 policemen. Immediately, I went, those fucking kids that just got off this elevator, man. Let's smell this shit. You know what that shit is, guys? Well, I don't do that shit. I'm a fucking athlete. Cocksuckers. Boy, I'm pissed. I'll never stay at this fucking. I thought this was a great establishment. And they're like, just take it easy, sir. Take it easy. I'm like, I can't take it. No, we're here to get somebody else. Okay. Elevator opens. Rick Rude's at the desk in handcuffs.
Oh, my.
I'm like, oh, boy. What the fuck happened? Huh. So I don't want to leave knowing he's in handcuffs, but they won't let me go talk to him. So I'm just standing off on the side, waiting to catch the shuttle to the airport. Got the snake with me, all that shit. So the guy at the shuttle shows up. I said, man, can you just hold on a few minutes? I'm trying to see what happens to my buddy. He goes, you know that fucking guy? I'm like, yeah. He goes, that guy's, he's a fucking thief. I'm like, what? He's a thief. What are you talking about? That fucking guy broke into our restaurant at 4:30 this morning. Yeah, your buddy. Kicked the lock, kicked the door in. Like, fuck. So that doesn't sound like him. So he's a weird cat, man. I just want you to know that. What do you mean he's a weird cat? Said the only thing he stole is a large roll of saran wrap.
Oh, my God.
And I'm
Oh,
like,
my God.
what?
No
Saran
way.
wrap? Saran wrap? He says, yeah. So I can't. I mean, Rick, saran wrap? And he goes,
Oh, my God.
I'm not worthy of your presence, mighty Rick. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
at least he was trying to wrap that thing, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah, saran wrap, man.
wow.
What can you? That's exactly what I said. Wow. Did you at least have to bend it over? Yeah. I mean,
Did you feel bad for not lending the condom at that point, or where were
I
you
didn't
at?
have any. I didn't
Okay.
have any. What do I need condoms for? I'm
That's
married.
fair. That's fair. Oh man. Well, you know, as odd of a story as it is, that is very authentically Rick Rude, I feel like. So
Oh,
that's
absolutely. 100%.
so let's get back to the feud here. There's a pretty memorable segment on TV during that 7-month stretch. He beats Tommy Angel in Providence, and after he wins, he removes his tights to reveal a second pair. And the second pair has your wife's Cheryl's face spray painted on it.
Yeah.
You run out, you rip the tights off,
Yeah.
but the TV censors it.
Yeah.
This is good shit, man. Who's coming up with
Well,
that?
They didn't come up with that. Rick Rude came up with those tights and told me, he said, be sure to watch. I want to show you something. I didn't know.
Wow. So that you shoot did not know.
That was a shoot.
Okay.
But when he had my wife on there, it was also a shoot, me running to the ring and ripping that shit off of him. Because he had asked me about 3 weeks before, hey, I can get my airbrush guy to put your wife right on my crotch, man. Her mouth will be right where my dick is. I'm like, Rick, you do that shit, I'll rip them off of you, man.
So he knew what he was doing.
Yeah, he knew he was needling me.
Yeah.
He wanted to see if I'd come through. I came through.
But that's great TV.
Oh, it was wonderful TV. Vince fucking shit himself. He loved it. But that wasn't planned.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, brother, what would you do if your wife's fucking mouth was, give me a break. I mean, I had to talk to Bobby Heenan one time because he got pretty stiff on some of the interviews he was doing, There's something about being in San Diego. I know your wife loves San Diego, all the troops. Bobby, come on, man. Really? Is that really cheap heat or what? Now you're calling my wife a whore? No, you're not doing that. And there's just some things you don't cross the line with, man. And they pushed the line, but we didn't cross it.
That's fair. That's fair. Did any animosity develop after that?
Absolutely none.
Okay.
None at all.
Okay.
The only thing that Rick hated about me was, I guess, fans with bad eyesight or something. We'd be at the airport or something, and fans would walk up to him and say, "Can I get your autograph?" And he'd sign them. And they go, "Thank you, Mr. Roberts," and walk off. And he just, So if you look back at those tapes and stuff, you'll see that he cuts his hair off. He even trimmed his mustache down where it wasn't like mine. Oh, yeah. He hated that. And, of course, him hating that, I wanted to help him. So I used to send people over to him myself. You know, go over and ask Rick Rude for an autograph. And then tell him, "Thank you, Mr. Jake Roberts." They didn't even know what they were doing. But it sure was fun.
You know, I met you in an airport 10 years ago, and you didn't get mad at me when I called you Ric Flair. It was weird.
Well, there's some things that just aren't believable. Number one, I'm 6 inches taller than Flair.
There you go. There you go. So the feud concludes with several hold versus hold matches on the road. The only way to win, you hit your finisher. So it's DDT versus Rude Awakening. And you're on the winning end of all these matches. And then Cheryl comes in, slaps Rude. You put Damian on Rude. Fans go home happy. It's an easy formula. What'd you think of the conclusion of all this and the good guy coming out on top here with his wife?
I think in this situation they had to. You know, if they don't come out with a good guy on top there, they're kind of pissing on our values and our morals. You know, so they had to kind of get me over there at the end of that. But boy, did I pay for it. Look what I got next.
Yeah. Yeah. This transitions into your feud with Andre. It's another Heenan family member. So you're working a lot with Bobby, and I'd imagine he's a lot of fun to work with.
Bobby is he can be a bit much at times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember whenever Andre passed out and Bobby's beating his chest, I got the snake. I'm like, "Give him mouth to mouth, Bobby. Give him mouth." "Fuck you. I'm not doing that shit." I'll die.
Well, Rick would eventually leave the WWF in October of 1990. He'd go to WCW. He would have a career-ending back injury in 1994 when working in Japan. Did you stay in contact with him after the injury during that process at all? No?
No, I sure didn't, man. You know, you got to be really tight with somebody if you keep up a relationship when you're doing, 80, 90 days straight. You're never off the road. The last thing your wife wants to hear while you're at home is you on the phone talking to another wrestler. I mean, you just had 3 months alone out there to do it. Why didn't you do it then? No, I didn't keep in tight with Rick. Rick was a different cat, man. He kind of had the own beat of his drum, and he kind of just, he was a lot like me in the sense that we didn't pal up with a bunch of guys and go hang out. We were loners. So, which can be a good thing, which can be a bad thing. But in my instance, it was a bad thing. Yeah. But I think it would have been even worse if I'd have been around other guys.
Yeah. Well, Rick died way too young. He was 40 years old.
Oh, God, man.
And April 20th, 1999. And it was said that he was actually returning to the ring. He was training for a return to the ring. And thankfully, he's inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame in 2017.
Yeah, rightfully so.
He gets to do it. Yeah, what do you think his legacy is ultimately at the end of the day?
Deep down, Rick cared about people. I know when he lived in Atlanta, he would go out and go deer hunting. And he would give the meat to the poor people that lived around Atlanta. So here's people that he didn't even know that he's trying to help out. And that's the kind of guy he was. If he did something for somebody, it was on the QT. He didn't want publicity. He didn't want people patting him on his back or any of that. He was just a quiet guy. So I don't know. Leaving a legacy behind, I'm still trying to figure mine out, brother.
It's fair. Yeah, it's more than fair.
I don't think I've hit mine yet. So I'm not going to sit up here and pretend that I know something somebody else doesn't know, because I don't. But Rick Rude was a good man. He was the hardest working son of a bitch in the gym that you ever wanted to see. And I just love the guy, man, and I respect him. I've had the great opportunity of running into his son several times here in Atlanta, and that was always a good moment. And I'm so grateful that he's not wrestling, because fans don't know, man, but it takes a lot out of you. It takes a lot out of you. It's so demanding. It's not like that today, though. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I throw it in the air, let the chips fall where they are.
Yeah.
I just know that from my experience, I gave up a lot to get what I got. I gave up way too much. And maybe I wouldn't have had to give it up so much if I hadn't been a drug addict.
Yeah.
Or an alcoholic, but I was. But I'm clean and sober now, 13 years, man.
And you're crushing it. You're absolutely crushing it.
Feels so good. And there's been a couple of other people here lately start down that road. Mr. Bagwell has started down that road. And I'm so proud of him and so happy for him. I can't explain it to you, man, because, you work all your life trying to achieve something in wrestling. And then even when you get it, it doesn't seem like you got it. It's still empty. So in other words, it's not filling that hole that you have in your heart. And then you get out of wrestling and you do a couple of simple little things for people, and boom.
Changes you.
Wow. I feel good inside.
Yeah.
This is crazy. I'm not ashamed of myself anymore. I feel like a good man. And I know I'm a good man now. But it took a long time to convince me. And I had to do a lot of forgiving.
Well, Jake, I know that you've said that Rick was the hardest working man in the gym. And I know deep down you might have been a little envious of that body when he do his little dance, his little shake. We got a few fan questions to wrap us up here, Jake. You ready to do this? Here we go.
Let's do it, man. I'm not afraid.
A wrestling historian asks, were you there or did you hear about when Rick Rude allegedly punched the Ultimate Warrior for getting smart with him backstage after a house show?
No, I was not there. But at the time, I would have loved to have been there. Because maybe I'd have went over and stomped him a couple of times. No, I did not even know that, to tell you the truth. I knew somebody else that he punched out. I just knew that Rick Rude didn't have a problem punching anybody out.
Okay. Jamie asks, are the stories true that Rude was one of the toughest men within the wrestling industry? And when he worked in Japan, if he didn't or couldn't speak Japanese, how was he able to communicate?
Like we all do, point your finger at your mouth and point your finger at your stomach. I want to eat. I want to drink, and let's fight. That's all it is, folks.
So he was legit one of the toughest guys you've ever encountered?
Oh, God, yeah. There's only a couple of people I could put above him. One being Haku, and, of course, the Giant.
Dion asks, how was Rick Rude outside of wrestling? From what you've said, it seems like he liked to do things a little low-key, kind of keep to himself a little bit.
Yeah, he was low-key, quiet to himself, and don't disturb his ship. If you disturb his ship, he's going to be in your face.
There you go. And our last question comes from Brad. This is a great question. Brad's one of our ad-free show's top guys. He says, is Rick Rude someone who didn't need a championship like you, Jake?
He needed it.
Why is that?
To solidify or quantify what he was. He's the best built man on the planet. Not an inch of fat on him anywhere. He's a friggin' killer. So he should have that belt around him. And for all of us fat guys to chase.
Why do you think Vince never made him the guy? Because on the surface,
Real simple. Real
Okay.
simple. He was scared of him.
Vince was scared of Rick.
Yes. Yes. How do you
Interesting.
tell Rick Rude? How do you tell Rick Rude no? You tell him no. I don't want to.
'Cause on the surface, Rick Rude checks all the boxes that Vince McMahon would look for in a top guy.
Yeah, except the one that says this fucking guy will kill you if you fuck with him.
Interesting. Okay.
And we all
right.
know Vince liked to fuck with guys.
That's a fair point. Interesting.
That's the reason. It's got to be.
Very interesting. Well, this was a fun little look back on Rick Rude. I really enjoyed this, Jake. Is there anything you'd like to plug here today?
Just cameo. And guys, I'm trying to finish my book. Hopefully I'll be finished in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And then I'm really going to push hard to get it out there. I'm doing it all myself. So it's not somebody else talking for me. It's over 600 pages so far. Sorry about the length, but there's going to be a whole lot of stuff that's going to have some real meat on it. It's not just going to be tickles and ha-has and gagas, man. It's going to be explaining the life that I went through and I persevered. And hopefully somebody else can learn from it. Other than that, I'm going to be out on the road. As to whereabouts, I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get that checked up on.
If you see me, I'll be there.
Jake the Snake Roberts, thank you so much, my friend. This has been another edition of DDP Snake Pit. I'm John Alba. We'll see you guys next time.